Good morning. Well, we have been listening to a lot of news about alleged compromising pictures of Donald Trump that are possessed by Russia, and they might use those pictures to exploit Trump, make him do what they want. Well, this is an unsubstantiated news, but the reality is that the sexual blackmail has been the norm for all the intelligence agencies all over the world. And this is not the first time that the compromising pictures are being used. As a matter of fact, since the biblical times, sex has been used as a tool to gather intelligence and to use that intelligence for your purpose. The earliest time this was done was in the biblical story of Samson and Delilah. History knows that and shows to us that all this sound and fury reveals another thing, and that there are some news that are not news but are created news, and some news are a fact that has been there since times immemorial and has always been ignored, and yet when you need to destroy somebody or to take away the person's legitimacy, then you use that up. Hasn't US used sexual tools? Hasn't MI used them? Hasn't RAW used them? Hasn't Mossad used them? Show me a single country which has not indulged in this activity. Even when Assange was arrested for raping, there was suggestion that he had been a victim of government-sponsored seduction, and we call it honey trap. James Bond movies are a clear reflection to that. And I said earlier that Samson and Delilah is a historical practice. Now, in the Cold War, it became a staple. And do you know the classic story of Mata Hari, the exotic dancer, Dutch dancer, who were executed by the French in 1970? She would use sex to get the secrets of the Allies and give them to the Axis powers. And she was killed ultimately in 1978. Sandinista operative Nora Estogara in Nicaragua used the same. And you remember when the Israeli technician Mordechai went to public and exposed the nuclear designs of Israel, he was seduced by a lady under Mossad orders and handed over to Mossad agents. He was killed later on. Now, in one case, 1957, Russians had recruited an attractive man. First time possibly. That man was used. He was a gay. He was an American columnist, Joseph Alsop. And he was trapped to become a Russian agent. He died. Even, can you believe it, President Skorno was videotaped when he was having sex with a Russian woman, and the Russian woman had assumed the mantle of an air hostess, a flight attendant, and Skorno had sex with her in the flight. It was videotaped, and he was blackmailed. But he wasn't blackmailed. What happened was, when he was shown the videotape, he smiled, he laughed, He says, why don't you show it to my people? They'll be happy to know that in spite of my age, I'm so active and so powerful. You remember the story of an old man, 80, who was prosecuted for rape. The victim was supposed to be a 20-year-old girl. And when he was asked, have you committed rape? He said, yes. And the judge said, can you do it? Medical tests were performed and it was found that he was suffering from erectile dysfunctioning. So the judge asked him, well, you cannot do it. You don't have even the erection. And he said, well, it gives me satisfaction that somebody thinks that I'm capable of that. So why not accept it? So then in the Second World War, Marcus Wolf was sent by Stasi for the same purpose. Do you know, America is no exception. They have been doing it. The classic example is of Martin Luther King. His pictures were taken in compromising situation. Then a letter was sent to him which addressed him as King only. No dear, no sir, nothing, no mister. And he was told that in case he doesn't change, it will be done. Similarly, an American diplomat in 2009, the evidence was there, and then Deputy Mayor of London, Clement, was seduced. You don't forget the Profumo scandal of England. You see, I could go on and on with these examples, and I put them in my article today. But the classic is, as I said earlier, Dr. Martin Luther King's wife receiving that letter. The package was there, and it showed his sexual indiscretions. Now, considering the fact that it's almost a universal practice, it has been given a very apt name by the Russians, and the name is compromat, compromising pictures trap. The Americans call it a honey trap. So then why blame Russia only if the thing is being done by everybody? And secondly, can it really harm? Imagine 2 US presidents had happy married life, and they also kept a gay companion an age when gays were considered not only a sin but also a crime. 2 American presidents, and one of those presidents is an icon of America. The sexual deviations of John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Bill Clinton are well known, and yet nobody could exploit them. Nobody denies that Donald Trump in his other life has had prolific sexual relations. He married 3 times, and he's not ashamed of that. So a person who is not ashamed of his sexual relationship, and a country where deviant sexuality is not a crime and is not taken up badly, how can the Russians exploit that? This thing is, the whole episode was created to impact the middle classes. Each one of the persons I've named did not bother, they accepted it. Well, it's a matter of right. It has happened, so it has happened. And as I told you about Sukarno, that's a classic case. Trump can say the same thing. Well, I have it, it shows my manhood. And as I said earlier, America is sexually deviant. That's a norm. And in a sexually deviant society, if there are sexual indiscretions, how do they harm you? Thirdly, only that person can be exploited who is afraid. Donald Trump till today has not shown even the slightest symptom of ever being afraid. And a man who can look at you in the eye, anybody in the eye, and says what it feels like. You remember his classic diatribe against Marco Rubio, when Rubio said that he has small hands, and he came up with a ripsote. Well, I have small hands, but not everything about me is small. He was referring to his male organ. A man who is pretty bold to the extent of being brusque cannot be exploited. In case the Russians ever think of exploiting him, he has the capacity to say, yes, I did it, so what? Go to hell. So why this hullabaloo? Why this sound and fury? This was, as I said, only to create a cloud regarding the person and to affect puritanical ideas of the middle classes. It's only a small portion of the American society, the conformist, puritanical middle classes, that are horror-stricken by sexual deviation. Even they indulge in such actions, either in the dark or surreptitiously. They may not talk about it, but maybe they are more sexually deviant and more amorous than the people who openly profess it to be so. And let's not forget one thing more, that power is the biggest aphrodisiac. The girls come to wealth and to power. So do men. So, something that has happened and a person who is incapable of being caught down cannot be exploited. This whole gambit of using supposedly honey traps and concocting stories, and now FBI admits that there is no evidence. It is just the creation of a former spy from Britain. The spy who came from cold, possibly. Possibly somebody wanted to gain attention and created this story, but then I assume, let it be correct. Even that assumption does not in any way harm either Trump or USA. It only harms the national security because you are undermining your own process. Nobody else has undermined American elections except the liberal media and the Democratic Party. Nobody else. People all over still consider it to be a great democracy. But such actions and propagation of such stupid stories, which are dime a dozen. A, there is no validity, and secondly, as I showed, even if the validity is there, it has no relevance. Intelligence agencies would use sexual blackmail, but blackmail is only successful in the case of people who are morally weak and who can succumb to pressure. A person who can stand up and say, okay, to hell with you, cannot be a victim of blackmail. And in this 1.5 year, most of you have seen, Trump is not a person who can show any weakness. I'm not a spokesman for Trump, but I'm a spokesman for maintaining some sanity. And sanity cannot be maintained if you start concocting stories, or creating stories, or having even the real stories and magnify them 500 times. This only shows their own mental vexity, their own infantile approach, and their attitude which is not commensurate with their professions of being democratic, responsible media or political persons. Honey trap is only capable of being a real trap in case you slip into it and drown yourself. A good swimmer will eat the honey, enjoy it, and just smile and say, okay, now go ahead, do your worst. I have had honey and now you be damned. Samson fought till the end. Mata Haris come and go. But still, blackmail would succeed only when you are morally weak and mentally incapable of standing up for yourself. Thus, these stories have no effect and they should be taken as enjoyable fiction, nothing more than that. Thank you.